but I'm recording this as well. So we're going to do the best with what we've got. And quite honestly, after a year, I feel like we have all the potential to knock everyone else off. It's just about um, player intelligence and players investing in themselves, and I think we can go toe to toe with just about everyone. So it's exciting. Year two is going to be even better than year one, I believe. So glad to have you guys on board. Sarah, I'm sure you know Jeff. Mason, obviously know Jeff. David, Jeff, I'm sure you guys have met and spoke in detail and all that stuff. So we'll rifle through the agenda here. First things first is, before we even get started on that, Sarah, I will be calling you in the next couple days just to have a one-on-one, just to kind of chat and talk about your coaching journey, where you are, where you want to go, how we can help you get there. Same thing with you, Mason. David, we'll do it again on our end as well. So over the next couple days, handful of days, I'll reach out to you guys and we'll just have a chat and see where you are and how we can benefit you getting there. Teams, coaches and teams. We've got a pretty stacked youth academy in terms of numbers and teams. We've got U7 boys, we've got U7 girls, U8 boys, U8 girls, U9 boys, U9 boys and girls, U10 boys and girls, and we have a developmental team on the U10 boys side. Sarah, right now it looks like you're taking the U7 girls. Mason, you're taking the U7 boys. David, you've got the U8 boys and the U9 boys. All make sense? Okay, so as of now, we have a couple vacancies in terms of our U9 boys C team, our U10 boys C team, our U9 girls B team, and our developmental team. So I know Jeff is working on that, and we'll get those assignments posted and listed, and all will be good. Schedule.
Good.
Anything you want to add there, Jeff? Sorry, I'm flying.
Yeah. Good time to stop you there. Just to let you know that because I'm still hiring, and hiring on the U11 to U18 side, some of that is kind of flexible. I would just say Sarah and Mason right now. I think Sarah's a lock. Mason, we're trying to figure out where the best spot is for you. Okay, just know that you're hired, you're in. All that stuff is good. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, all good. Training schedule. We have 2 time slots on a Tuesday, Thursday. 5:30 to 6:45 is our first slot, and then we go 7 to 8:15 in our second slot, Tuesday, Thursday. We traditionally do Monday as a optional technical night. Wednesday is an optional goalkeeper night. And from what I understand, a lot of folks have been trying to get Friday kind of pickup games going over at Nesbitt. I don't know if it's having any success or getting any legs, but it would be nice if people took it on their own and found a plot of land and just kind of played. So plenty of opportunities to get out and play. And we'll finalize that schedule as we get further into the summer. Game schedule, just to keep it simple, we're going to start preseason camp that first week of August. I think the 1st of August is like a Thursday. So we will wait till the following week to start camp on a Monday, go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to kind of kick things off with everyone. And then we'll start into our regular Tuesday, Thursday training schedule. Games will, I can't remember exactly. Right now, I think we won't play the first 2 weekends of August. And then I think about the 17th, we'll get going. We typically, just so you're aware, Nesbitt gets pretty crowded once we get past, is it Labor Day, right, Jeff? It's Labor Day. So we'll squeeze in a couple of play dates on those last couple Saturdays in August, where we'll have teams come to us. But just to make it easy on everyone, we travel after that. The good thing is our furthest game is typically Huntersville. What I did add to the schedule is kind of a special event. Is we'll go up to Greensboro in September. It might be October, but we'll go up and play 2 games. Each team will get 2 games. We'll make a day of it. We're not going to a tournament or anything in the fall, so this will be kind of that special day that we'll go and we'll play different uniforms. The thing about it is, as David, you well know, Mason and Sarah, you may, CSA has 7 locations in and around Charlotte. So nearly every single weekend we are playing a CSA group. So it's always nice when we can go and see a different jersey. So going up to Greensboro to play NC Fusion hopefully is a welcome change in terms of the jerseys we see. But I'll email you that schedule. When Jeff brought me on board, he told me 3 things that resonate pretty loudly with me. I'll repeat them to you. Our job, player education, sharing coaching education amongst ourselves, and parent education. Those are the 3 main jobs that resonate pretty loudly in my head all the time. This is something I really need you guys to embrace. So your job is to not only run your sessions, coach your players, coach your teams, but also really communicate to your families. The parents, as we know, we're in youth soccer, so the parents are the customer. We are serving ourselves really, really well when we have an open and often we're communicating with our parents, right? Just cluing them in as to what we're doing in training, what maybe they can look for in a game. Game recaps are fantastic. Just a couple sentences, a paragraph or 2, maybe just on your impression of what you saw in watching your players play over the weekend. They, some of them just are a taxi service and they just show up, drop their kid off, and bring them home and go on their merry way. But a lot of them are invested, and we're asking more of them to be invested in their child's development. So you being that conduit to, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish on a Tuesday, Thursday, and this is the outcome of our match on Saturday. What did we see? What went well? What didn't go so well? What are we going to work on coming up? What's the philosophy? How are we trying to play? How do we set up? There are so many opportunities for you as a coach to educate the parents, and we want to treat them like they're a sponge and they want more and more and more. I'll put it to you this way, guys. If you want to turn any parent over to me to have conversations, I love to talk. Okay. I over talk. All right. It's a problem I have, but it serves me well when it comes to talking to parents. They like to just hear words coming out of my mouth, and I'm happy to do it. I do it too often, but I enjoy it. And I think in the end, they do too. So I encourage you to take the lead with that. But at any time, know that I'm here to help you. So if you want to, hey, can you talk to this parent? No problem. Give me a little background, and off we go. What I ask of you, this happens every year when we hire, right? We have the conversation. Hey, this is the job at hand. This is what we'd like of you. This is how we play. This is how we do things. Everybody nods. They tell me exactly what we want to hear. And then when we get into the flow of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, then they become crickets, right? It's everybody's busy. Everybody's got a life. Everybody's rushing from here to there. Everybody's plate is full. I am going to continue to ask the question, and just we are going to get deeper in other conversations about how we're trying to do things. David has a pretty good understanding of a bit of a different approach we're trying to take here. I don't have a problem if you have a problem with how we're trying to do things. I just need to know how you think. That's really, really important. I am not sitting here saying that I have all the answers. I don't. I would like to know from you how you see the information I'm trying to share with you, how we can tweak it, how we can make it better. But ultimately, what we don't want is we don't want Sarah running off on this side doing what she wants. David taking his group over here and running with it this way. Mason, you're going in a completely different direction than the two of them. And, when we pass players from team to team, Sarah, you're taking a player who's played with you, and now that I've got that player it's like I'm speaking a different language to them because we're on completely different pages. So we have to communicate as a staff. I'm going to change that up as well in terms of how we communicate more often, more frequently with one another. We have to talk about players. We have to talk about players. We have to talk about players. The youth academy is set up where we have a pool of players, and our job is to evaluate a particular player and say the environment we have them in is working well for this player or it's not working well. If it's not working well, we have to move them up or we have to move them down. The moving part is not the easiest, especially when it's the down direction. Difficult conversation to have. Moving up, no problem. But our job, for optics sake, we need to be frequently moving a player in a direction if we feel it's necessary, right? So that's on you guys. So if I've got team B and David's got team A and Mason has team C, I've got to be communicating to both of them to say, hey, I got a player for you, or hey, I got to send one down to you, right? It's really, really important that the team right next to you, whether it's up or down, there needs to be a lot of communication between those two coaches. Does that make sense, everyone? That I need you to really take the bull by the horns, talking to one another all the time, giving players opportunity. When we move them, we don't have to move them permanently. We can move them for a training session. We can move them for a game. We can say, hey, you're going to play with my team at 10 o'clock, but at the 11 o'clock kickoff, let's give you an opportunity with this team. We can play with it. It's malleable. Let's see where the best fit is. That player moving up might be completely shell-shocked playing with new players and playing in a different environment that they're not used to. And we might say, whoa, we probably needs to just be in training sessions for now. Then again, they might run with it and absolutely love playing with, quote, better players. Who knows? Okay, does that all make sense? Jeff, anything you want to add there?
Took me longer to get off mute than to say no.
No. Great. Next bullet point here, philosophy, principles of play, game model. We're just going to touch on it now. We'll get into this at another time or maybe individually, but I guess the easiest thing for me to say is I feel like there are a few very obvious training models that happen here in Charlotte. One of them, most notably, is at Weddington. Weddington takes an approach of individual player development, it seems. I've never spent time there, but it seems like when we play those teams, it's all about individuality. Do a move, do a move, do a move, do a move, do a move. There's not a player in 20 yards around you, but do a move anyway, right? Do two of them, right? Because that's really, really important. I don't necessarily see it that way. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I don't agree with their model. Now, if you look at their players individually, very, very talented. But at the end of the day, I think when we square up, we come out on top more often than they do. Does it mean that we have better players? We're doing it better? I don't know. But the sum of the parts, I like the result as opposed to individual player development. So when it comes to what we're trying to do, we're trying to teach players how to read game pictures and ultimately get to the point where if this, then this. Does that make sense? So, how many times can we recreate a specific picture and then ask them to recall, okay, the last time I saw that, I did this and I was successful. I should do that again. Or the last time I found myself in this situation, I tried this and it didn't go so well. So, do I want to try that again? Okay. If I'm phrasing it a different way, um, I believe the traditional way of coaching, not only in the US, but around the world, is we try and break down things into individual components, train those individual components, and assume that that's going to the sum of all those parts is going to look like good soccer. Does that make sense? So if I can't pass very well, I've got to do a bunch of exercises that are focused on passing. If I can't receive the ball very well, I need to do 20 minutes of an exercise that focuses on how I receive the ball. I'm not disagreeing at all. All right. Where I'm more hell bent is efficient use of our time. We have 2.5 hours twice a week. All right. What are we going to do with those 2.5 hours twice a week? All right. I know as a player, for me, I always hated skill work. As a result, I was never the most technical player. Many would argue, well, if you did more technical work as a young player, you would be more confident on the ball. Therefore, you would be a better player. Perhaps true. The flip side of that argument is I didn't do technical work because I found it to be boring. I just wanted to play. Right? So we have to make a decision as adults here. What do we do? Do we force them into doing what we know as adults is going to provide a better outcome in the long run and risk losing that player in that 2.5 hours a week? Or do we put them into a situation where they're playing games, they're making decision, it looks like the real thing, they compete, they're excited, they want to come back? I'm not saying it's a hard this way or a hard that way. By all means, if you want to do some passing and receiving in a training session, do it. Do it. Let's not hover there for 30, 35 minutes. Make sense, right? We have very, very limited time. Let's get them playing. Let's make it competitive. Give them plenty of opportunity to make decisions. Most of them will be wrong, but some of them will be good. We celebrate the hell out of those, and hopefully they're in a competitive situation and they want to come back the next day. This is the perpetual argument, especially at this age group. And I can get roped into your point of view if it differs from mine. I definitely can. I think it's a great discussion. Always is. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I feel like I get the train further down the track in my limited time taking that approach. So if I'm working on passing and receiving, I'm not breaking it down into a drill. I'm basically saying, okay, we're playing from the back. You're playing to these two target goals. It's 6 versus 3. Ready, go, play. Make whatever decision you want. Are you gonna dribble out of the back? Yeah, maybe. You gonna kick it long? Yeah, maybe. You gonna give it away in front of your goal? Yeah, maybe. Right? And then guess what? We're gonna do it again, and we're gonna do it again, and we're gonna do it again, and we're gonna do it again. And all along, we're going to pull the string of why did you make that decision? What was the outcome? Did you like it? Was it successful? Was it not? That's kind of the philosophy of how we go about training, right? I've got a very short library of training games, right? All on this page that I just vary the numbers, vary the size, vary the targets, vary the space, bumpers, target play, whatever, right? And it's not a very long list of what I do, right? Further discussion. Okay, Jeff, anything you want to add there?
Taking notes, but not yet. Maybe
Coaches,
some.
anything you guys want to add? No?
Yeah, I'll add one thing, Eric. Did I
Okay.
jump in front of anybody? I think I've listened to this before, Eric, and so one of the things that I appreciate is when we're talking about the way I think traditional soccer has been over the past 30 years, we're talking about technical repetition and rote. If you are talking about going away from that, not necessarily to the extreme, but what you're defining something as innovative, there's a risk in innovation. And so one of the things that we have to make sure that we are doing is when we are communicating to our parents, talking to them about the fact that we are pushing decision making versus the lack of decision making and dribbling from one cone to the next is an important thing to watch. And so parents may not be able to decide what exactly is happening because they don't see that someone is learning something. And if in Eric's training session, he has 10 sessions deep for 3 weeks and they're looking at the exact same thing, they don't think that anything is happening. They are trying to look at it and go, well, that we've been doing the same thing. What is happening right now? And so part of that is you being really observant and then looking at your players and saying, here is what's actually happening right now. And then when we actually take those tests, the matches or whatever happens that you can kind of highlight during training sessions, it's really good to communicate some of that so that more and more parents actually catch on to what decision making looks like. Because dribbling from cone to cone is something that's easy to see visually, but a player thinking, that's not something that parents can pick up. We can't even pick that up unless we're evaluating the decision making process. And so that's really important to keep in mind and think about as you are not just coaching and rolling out a couple of balls like a traditional PE teacher, but somebody who really pays attention and takes good notes about what's happening in a complex situation.
And if you guys didn't know already, Jeff does a much better job of communicating thoughts and ideas than I do. I just kind of right. So well done, Jeff. Good job. All right, so we'll talk more about that as we go. It's a conversation over coffee, over beers, over whatever. I absolutely love it. It's how I spend my days. It's my world. But I'm really interested to understand how you think, right? And what you think. Because like I said, the way we set up training isn't necessarily the best way, right? You may come to me and say, no, this is a better formula, and here is why. If you strongly believe in it, then okay, let's hear what that's all about, and maybe we alter it for all of us. This has been an open door roundtable type discussion for years, and it's really interesting to see where people come from. Um, uh, what I will say is most of those conversations, when we talk about it, we're in line. We say we are right here. We're together, right? We see it the same way. Then once you go off with your team and you say, well, they're deficient in this, we're deficient in this, we're deficient in this, and then you design something to address those deficiencies, guess what it looks like? It looks like a drill and rote exercise broken down, repetitive over and over and over, because that's what we're used to. Not saying it's wrong. I just want the communication from you guys as coaches to say, here's the observations. This is the plan I'd like to put in place to address those deficiencies. Does that make sense? I'm never going to tell you, no, don't do that. Right? If you feel that's best, then run with it. See how it goes. See what you get. All that I'm really asking of you is more of an open line of communication. Hey, I'm going to send you a session every single day. You don't have to think. You can just copy the session, or you can say, no, I'm going to tweak this. I'm going to add this. I'm going to take this out. I'm really interested in why. I just want to know where you're coming from, what you see, what you would like to address, what's important to you, right? That's important to me. Make sense? Um, Session design. We'll get into that when it comes to talking philosophy, but it's real simple for me. It's typically some sort of numbers up situation, 4v1, 5v1, 10v1, whatever it is, you know, and we go from that to a bigger picture kind of keep away game. Could be directional, could be non-directional, but most of my time is spent them playing a game, having multiple options, being able to score, whether it's dribble over a line, put it into a small goal, shoot on a big goal, competitive, right? Everybody wants to win. That's something we drive home here, right? Let's put them into a game situation. Let's see who's the real grinders, who hates to lose. Those are the ones we reel on. We talk about grit quite a bit, right? We want to develop players that have a bit of a spine. They hate to lose. They want to compete. They want to fight. We don't. We want to kind of get rid of the idea of oh well, we lost. It's okay. Oh well, right? So that's just constant conversation from you guys as coaches. The last bullet I have here is the summer schedule. And it's no real it's no events on the schedule. It's just I'll sync up with you in terms of your summer schedule. The big lesson I learned last year with the group is I didn't spend any time with them in the summer. So we got into August, we got into the groups, we met at the field, and here you go. Boom, go. I would like to spend some time with you, Sarah, with you, David, with you, Mason, right? With you, Tim, and just we sit down, we talk through some things. I get an idea of where you're coming from, all those things to get a sense of how you're going to run your team. And I want you to come with questions. Maybe you have all the answers. That's great. You have a really good idea. Here's something for you guys to chew on until we talk again. Over the winter, we went through the fall season. We had our first coaches meeting after the fall season. And I asked the group, I said, how many of you in this room had a plan going into the beginning of the season, executed your plan, and feel like you were relatively successful in the execution of your plan from start to finish over the course of 3.5 months? You know, I know that I had a plan. I didn't get very far, right? I was disappointed with my performance in the fall, just in terms of what I expected the players to take away and build upon. So, you know, I wanted to make up for lost time in the spring. I want you to think that way, right? Maybe you don't know the players yet. You don't know the players yet, right? But have an idea going into it of, okay, this is going to be my group. This is what I want to do. This is how I plan to go about it. Make sense? Jeff, anything? No? Okay. Good. We kept it short. We got 5 minutes left, a little bit more. Any questions from you guys? Got to be at least one. Sarah, go ahead. Tell us something, Sarah. We got to hear your voice. Go on.
When you're saying that you don't want to incorporate a ton of technical work, so when I was coaching, I did a lot of technical work just because that's how I was taught to play. Are you saying like none of that, or are you saying you could start with some like 15, 20 minutes and then go into the gameplay, or what are your
Great point. You're a technical player. You learned that way. I don't want to say, no, it's a hard no. This is not how we do it. No technical. No, no. At the same time, I want you to be very aware of how we set up our teams. Like with like. We're not going to take a bottom player and put them with a top player and say, okay, we got a team here, right? We're going to take top players, group them together, middle players, group them together, lower players, group them together. If you've got a lower team, right, I understand that technical work is going to be something that they probably need a ton of, but I don't want you to think like an adult. I want you to think like a 7 or 8 year old. Okay. If you do technical work, please read the room. If they are bored to tears and you're starting to lose them, please deviate. Put them into a game. See if that wakes them up, gets their attention. Right? Here's another big observation. I'm huge on rondos. I don't like the word because it gets overused, right? But I love a numbers up situation. I love to see if the more players can dominate possession against the few bad guys. The problem, as Jeff and I experienced a couple times, is sometimes you get players, well, more often than not, you get players that are just not that interested, especially early on in the session, right? So what do you think that keep away game looks like when players are not very energetic? It stinks. It stinks, right? Passing's poor. Players aren't showing early, right? It just, there's no energy. It cannot come alive, right? And you feel like it's wasted time and you got to move on. Well, a rondo doesn't get good until you as a coach become a broken record and they know what to expect. They know what you're looking for. They know what it's supposed to look like, right? And it's going to take a while. We want to get to the point where kids just set up rondos on their own. They don't need cones. They just start one, right? And now we're playing a game. Now it's competitive. Don't go into the middle. 5 passes, you stay. 10 passes, megs, you stay. All of those international rules, those worldwide rules, we want them to incorporate and get going. Does it mean you have to do a rondo every day? Absolutely not, right? I do a rondo nearly every day. It's called 6v2 or 6v3 or 6v4, building out from the back. We do it all the time. It's a rondo in a game setup. So, I get pretty passionate about it because I feel like there's, you're either in this camp or you're in this camp, right? You want to do technical work, by all means do it, right? You evaluate the efficiency of that exercise, and it's how do you use your time, right? How do you utilize your time? Anyone else?
Here's what I would say to Sarah and Eric's dialogue or conversation is in the analogy of setting up a camp. You're either in this camp or this camp. Sarah, because you and I will work closely together in age group, kind of side by side-ish, I think you should just set up the tent the best way you know how. But if you're in a camp and you're looking at somebody else set up their tent, there's inevitably a better way to do it. And you'll end up looking at it and go, I think I'm going to try that the next time. And so in the fellowship of Academy and with the staff present, it's let's just do what you know best and then try to evolve from there. And then constantly go back and antagonize the things that you know to determine the best pathway forward. Because you're always going to show up to a camp and you're going to be jealous of somebody else's. That's the time you can steal a tent and take it home with you. I think that's the best thing. That's what I love about this Academy experience is in that same rondo that Eric runs, I want to jump into that rondo so that I can take the whole thing with me and use it if I want. So we'll talk about the technical component. Plus, we're sending Eric players. And so Eric has to tell us he's coaching U9, we're coaching U7. 2 years from now, Eric's going to look at those players and go, dude, you set the tent up wrong. So he wants to tell us, look, these guys can't pass. And so how else are we need to build it a little bit differently than Eric. But as long as the kids get into the car and they're like, dude, that was great. Let me see that again. Let me do it again. We're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the big misconception is that, unless you break it down into a specific activity that is repetitive, like passing and receiving, where you're passing from one cone, running from cone A to cone B, passing it to C repetitively over and over and over again. That's the only way you can train passing and receiving, right? Well, couldn't you do it in a keep away game? Right? But it's live. Instead of getting the ball and passing it from cone A to cone B and running to cone C, well, now I've got options. I don't have to pass it to my right. I can pass it to my left. I don't have to run anywhere. I can stand still, or I can run to the other side. I can do whatever I want, right? But we're asking those players to make decisions, be aware of their surroundings, be able to read pictures, identify where the space is. And if you can do that, you're intelligent. Now, the technical piece, we can train. So if a player is struggling, can we pull that player aside for 10 seconds? Say, no, toe up, heel down. Pass me this ball. Yes, looks good. Get back in there. They make a mistake again, you can pull them out again. Where the real training comes in is, hey, struggled a little bit in this activity. Something you can work on at home. Supply them a video. Hey, a little bit more of this. If they really care, they're not going to show up and have the session break down whenever they touch the ball. They're actually going to work at it and improve, and that's what we want. Make sense? Okay. Anyone else? We got about a minute left.
Good.
Good start. I will reach out to everyone. We'll have a chat, all the things, and welcome. Glad to have you guys on board, and we'll talk a little bit more as the summer continues to move forward. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Tim.